Hello everyone, welcome to episode 3 of Reading Layamon Brut. We'll be picking up today where we left off last time, just after the death of Aeneas, after he had established himself as a ruler in Italy. But before we start reading the text today, there are just 2 points I need to mention. Firstly, I apologise if you can hear the cicadas in the background. That's just the reality of life in summer in the Southern Hemisphere. And the second point is that going forward in the series, I'm thinking I'll use the mouse a bit more sparingly than I have in the first 2 episodes, because most of the time it's not entirely necessary and it does slow the process a bit. However, if we do come across lines that I think it would be beneficial, I will use the mouse, and if people do prefer it, you need only let me know in the comments and the mouse will return. Alright, let's begin. Hefda Lavinia the Queen, Kinabern on Wumba. The Queen thereafter son, and the son hefta to Frovra. Silvius Aeneas for Athalan he was he hoten. Ascanius his brother, the meet his father come from Troia, mit muchula worshipper, this Kinabern bewiste. Ascanius was this childes brother, ach her neften nocht an moder. His moder was he hoten Cresia. Priames kinges dochter. The Aeneas his father in Troia forleas. In a than fecht, his fern her him benomen. Lavinia the Queen had a kingly child, or a royal child, in her womb. The Queen soon thereafter had a son as consolation, a consolation for the death of her husband. He was named Silvius Aeneas for the noble, and the noble referring to his father. Ascanius, his brother, who came from Troy with his father, with great worship, or great honour, Ascanius cared for or looked after this royal child. Ascanius was this child's brother, but they did not have one mother, meaning they didn't have the same mother. Ascanius's mother, was called Creusa, King Priam's daughter, who Aeneas, his father, lost in Troy. In the fight, his foes took her from him. Ascanius held this drichliche land dies and years, and he markede an a he burg, alba lingua was he hatten. The burg was well jarwed, binnen lut jaren. He jaf her his stepmother, for the love of his brother, and Lavinion then a castel, and mucho land thereto. The his father have the imarked, the wheeler the he on liva was. This land he here lende, that come here lives ende. Ach her nom then a machum, the her tolden for God. The Aeneas mit his ferde bruchte from Troia. In alba lingua he hine sette, ach sune he donna ivata, forthachen mit van winde, the ferd hine ferde. Ascanius held this noble land for days and years, and he made or established a great city, Alba Longa it was called. The city was well prepared or well ready within a few years. Ascanius, gave, and here is the feminine pronoun here, but referring to the city, so he gave it to his stepmother for the love of his brother, and he also gave her Lavinium, the castle, and much land as well, which his father had established, while he was still alive. He gave her this land until her life's end came. But she took the statue, this word mahum is a generic term in Middle English that refers to any sort of pagan idol, particularly one that is represented by a statue. This is an unfortunate word. It comes about because a lot of medieval culture didn't have a great understanding of Islam, so it does actually come from the name Muhammad, but it doesn't refer to the Prophet of Islam in Middle English. She took the statue, the idol, which they accounted as God, they regarded as God, which Aeneas, with his army, brought from Troy. In Alba Longa, they set it. Well, yes, so this is the masculine pronoun here, and I'll use the mouse. He here is the masculine pronoun. However, we were just talking about Lavinia, so maybe this is a scribal error. You can see there's some confusion between he and her, the masculine and feminine pronouns in Lawman's English, and so it's easy to see why English ultimately preferred she as the feminine pronoun, because the two were just too close together before. So let's translate it as she, referring to Lavinia. So in Alba Longa, she set it, established it, but soon, or straight away, he refers here to the idol, so it went thence, so it went away. It went forth again, or back, with the wind. The fiend carried it. This word ferida gives us the word ferried, actually, so we could say the fiend ferried it, if we wanted to preserve the alliteration. But the fiend carried it, after she'd set it up in Alba Longa. Ascanius the cairn, there was a kinge's stude, 34 winter he held that land, and the lerden mit blissen. There kom his lives ende, latha him were. Silvium, his brother, there was Lavinia's son, he betakte all that land, that Aeneas her father hevde an hand, and as soon hevde Ascanius, there was he hatten Silvius. This child hevde his ermes nome, ach lutjer he levde, for his achne sonne serden hine shat to death. So Ascanius the brave, or the bold, who was in the king's place, in the king's stead, on the throne, for 34 winters, so 34 years, he held that land, and ruled the people with joy. Then came the end of his life, though it were loath, though it were hateful to him, though he didn't like it, naturally enough. And then we'll jump down to line 26 to begin this sentence. So he gave to Silvius his brother, who was Lavinia's son, all that land that Aeneas their father had in hand, so had within his control, within his power. Ascanius had a son who was called Silvius. This child had his uncle's name, but he lived for a few years. For his own son, afterwards, shot him to death. This gets a bit confusing because we have two Silvii here, and we have Lawman's immediate source, Wasa, to thank for this confusion. He introduced the second Silvius, who's actually the son of Lavinia. The main Silvius, for our purposes, though, is the son of Ascanius. Thou this child was fair muche, thou lovede he a maide. There was Lavinia Mauer, mit darnshippe he her lovede. Hit werth there swahit death well iwer, that there's younger women, iwerd hier mit childe. The yet leved Ascanius, there on land was duke, under yetten wären the thingers, that their women was mit childe. Thus ende Ascanius, there was lavard and dukes, after him yend that land, their cousin Dwemerlakes song. Weten he wulde, thurch tha wither craftes, what thing it were, that their women hevde on wombe. When the child, or the young man, was very fair or very attractive, then he loved a maiden. She was a kinswoman of Lavinia's kinswoman, so probably Lavinia's niece, or maybe her cousin. And remember here, we're talking about Silvius, who is the son of Ascanius, not Silvius, who is the son of Lavinia. So she's the girl he falls in love with is Lavinia's kinswoman, but is not a relative of him, except insofar as she is related to his stepmother. So he loved her mit darnchippe, with secrecy. They kept it secret. It turned out there, as it does well everywhere, or pretty much everywhere, that this young woman became herself with child. There yet levde Ascanius, so this was while Ascanius yet lived, while Ascanius was still alive, who was the ruler in the land. The things, or the matter, we might say, the matter was understood that the woman was with child. Then, and the sentence is spread over the 2 lines here, so then Ascanius, who was lord and ruler, sent throughout that land after them who knew or understood the song of the magic arts. Weten he wilde, so he wished to know, through the Withercrafters is wicked arts or evil skills, and Layamon, being a Christian priest particularly, does not approve of the divination that's going on here, so he refers to it as the wicked arts. What thing it were, or what sort of person it were, that the woman had in her womb. Her urpen, her leten, the sjukke was betwenen, her funden on den krafte, careful leathers, that their women was mit annesun, that was a selkuth bern, that boe shoulde fallen, father and his mother. Thur him her schulden deen, and then a death, Tholian, and thur his eldren death, I dreven ut of Londe, and umben longne fierst, mit urthschippe kummen lieven. Though leten weren I worpen, and swahit all I werth. Da the time kom, that the knav was I boren, in their burge, the broode dared I werth. The child was I boren I sund, to Balowen, his mother. So they cast their lots. The devil, or the fiend, was between them, among them, in their midst. And they found in that skill, careful is a false friend here, so it doesn't mean careful in the modern English sense, it means sorrowful. So they found sorrowful songs. They found that the woman was with a son, which was a wondrous child, or an extraordinary child. A child that must fell or must kill both his father and his mother. Because of him, they must die and suffer death. And because of the death of his elders, so referring to the child himself, would be driven out of the land, and longne fierst, after a long time. Fierst here is also a false friend. It doesn't mean first in the modern English sense. It means a period of time. It's often frist, but metathesis happens where sounds swap places. This child, mit urthship kummen lieden, would come to arrive with honour. So he will win great honour in spite of his inauspicious early years. Then the lots were cast, and so it all came about. So it came about exactly as predicted, is what the sense of line 147 is. Then the time came that the boy was born in the town. Then the Bruder here is the word that gives us bride, and we saw it a bit earlier actually in reference to Lavinia marrying Aeneas. However, it can just mean a young woman, and I think that's probably more the sense here. So the young woman became dead. It came about that she died. The child was born healthy to the bale, the death of his mother. This word balu, meaning destruction or injury or anything bad, survives in modern English in the word baleful. That child was I haten Brutus, that bairn was nuit fire. This child levede, and well I thigh, and Theus hit lovede. He was 15 year old, da he to wode ferde, and his father meet him, and fy seeth makede. He funden an a herde of hertes with a grete, The fader her beärde, to his achre unärde, to his sonne he her draf, himself to balu. Brutus sette on his flow, he wende to scherten that her der, and he hitte his achen fader, so goed there broste, wa was Brutus therefore. So the child was called Brutus. That child was not at all... Fire usually means doomed, but here it could probably just mean that he wasn't dead as a child, unlike, it's contrasting here with the fate of his parents. So this child lived and thrived well, and hit is neuter, because the word child is grammatically neuter, so we'll translate it as he, with reference to Brutus. So he loved virtues. He was 15 years old when he went to the wood, the forest, and his father with him, and made a fayaseath is it literally means a doomed journey or a fated journey, but this is a standard expression in Layamon for death. So markeda here is actually a singular verb, and it's taking as its subject his father. So his father is the one who made the fayaseath, the fated journey, and died. They found a herd of very great deer, very great harts. The father went beside them to his own destruction, or his own ruin. He drove them to his son, to the ruin of himself. This word balu is the same word that we saw before with reference to Brutus's mother. Brutus set his arrow. He thought to shoot that great deer, that high deer, but he hit his own father, right through the breast. Woe was Brutus, therefore. Waar was him on lieve, that the father was on deathe, that he herde his kun, that he of he kommen was, that he the flow hevde I drauen, and his father of slauen, he hina flemden out of than londe, and he wende sorgful over se stremes, into Griekland, there he his kun funde, of than folk of Troje, the mid tenen was to dreved. There quene kun Helene, des kinges sonne priame, and muchul folk of his therden, ach all her weren theur, and of his achne kun, moni kineborne mon. Woe was to him alive, that the father was in death. When his kin heard this, the kin which he was come from, that he had drawn the arrow and slain his father, they banished him, or put him to flight, out of the land, and he went, sorrowful, over the sea streams, over the ocean, into Greece, where he found his kin of the people of Troy, or the people which is why we have the singular verb here, wes. So the people which with destruction or with injury was driven. Then in line 168, there seems to have been some confusion somewhere along the line. So what it says is that they were the kin of the Queen Helen, the son of King Priam. What's happened here is that Layamon seems to have confused Helen of Troy with Helenus, who was a son of King Priam and is, in fact, the leader of the Trojans who end up in Greece in Geoffrey of Monmouth. So he's hedged his bets by mentioning both the Queen Helen and the son of King Priam. So continuing still with this verb funde, he found the kin of Queen Helen, the son of King Priam, and a great people, or many people, of his own, and just in the interest of not also translating Theoden as people, as well as translating folk as people, we might go with nation here, even though that's a bit of a problematic term, but we'll just use it in the interest of convenience here. So we'll say, and very many people of his nation. But they were all enslaved, and of his own kin, there were many noble-born men, many royally born men. Mony year was a gun, seven his kun hider cum. The weapmen weren I waxen, the women well I thoen, and here nutine needsumma weren. Nes Brutus idon lond, but a little an a wheel, that alle monnen he was leef, and muchel monshipper be won. For knicht he was sweeter god than folke to quem. He was metacusti, that is monshipper stare. Many years were gone, or had passed, since his family or his people came here. The men were grown, and the women flourished well, and their livestock were fruitful. Brutus was not in the land but a little while, so he wasn't there for very long, but in spite of this, he was dear to all men, or all the people, and he won great honour. For he was a very good warrior, a very good knecht, to please the people. He was merthicusti, he was generous with meat, with food, generous of his table, and that is a very great honour, or very honourable. Alle monnen he was slev, the him lokeden on. Her him jefen gersumme, and fire hine greten. Her seiden him mit rede, and mit stillitje runen. If he were swa triste, and he hit don durste, that he hem wilde leden, ut of dan leden, ut of therdem, frere that he weren, her hine wilden maken duk, and dam over his volke. To all the people he was dear, who looked upon him. They gave him treasure, and they greeted him fairly, or courteously. They said to him, with counsel, and with silent secrets, quiet secrets. We'd actually probably want to adjust seiden here to ask in modern English. So they asked him if he were so courageous, and if he dared to do it, that he would lead them out from among those people, so out from Greece, and out of slavery, so that they would be free. They wished that, or they would, if he satisfies this condition and leads them, agrees to lead them, they would make him the duke, and the judge over his people. Where habeth 7,000 of gode knechten, without een wiefman, the nocht neer kunnen of wepnen, children and hinen, the ure nete schullen jemen. For muchel where willeth brichen, and habeth care of ure lieve, when nulleth mit freship faren from ure fanden. Alle there weren at this read, belovede des runen. Okay, so we have some direct speech here, even though this is not indicated by quotation marks in the text, being minimal punctuation in the manuscript, but it's pretty clear that this is direct speech all the same. So we have 7,000 of good knights, or good warriors, not counting women, who do not know or do not understand nothing. Remember, multiple negatives don't make a positive, so they don't know anything of weapons, and also not counting children and servants who must pay attention to, attend to, or look after our livestock, our animals. And then in these next two lines, the expression is a bit convoluted, but the sense is essentially, well, it's essentially the Braveheart thing, that you may take our lives, but you'll never take our freedom. So what they're saying is that they would prefer to endure hardship and sorrow than even to not desire freedom. For we will endure much and have sorrow, care is a false friend, sorrow of our life or regarding our life, sorrow about our life, before we would not wish, with freedom, to go from our foes. End of direct speech. All who were at this council loved these secrets. these councils. And that sets up next time pretty well, I think. So we'll pick up at line 191 in episode 4 and see what happens, and whether or not Brutus will agree to lead the Trojans in rebellion against their Greek masters. Well, thank you for listening. As ever, if you have any comments, suggestions or questions, if you'd prefer the mouse to be used more frequently, or if you have any corrections either, please feel free to let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching the video, all the best, and I will see you next time.